Lee Dae-ho looked out the small window of the transport ship and smiled. The planet below looked peaceful with its green forests and blue lakes. After 6 months of space travel, he was finally arriving at Zentar Military Academy. He adjusted his uniform and picked up his single bag. Earth's military had told him to pack light, so he brought only the basics. The ship landed with a soft thud. Dae-ho walked down the ramp and took a deep breath. The air smelled clean and fresh, much cleaner than Seoul's air back home. He could get used to this. Other cadets were already gathering in the landing area. Dae-ho had never seen so many different alien species in one place. There were tall blue beings with 4 arms, short furry creatures with big eyes, and reptile-like humanoids with scales that changed color. Everyone looked nervous and excited. A massive insectoid being approached the group. It had 6 arms and compound eyes that reflected the sunlight. Its voice was deep and commanding. "Welcome to Zentar Military Academy. I am Commander Trixene. You are here because you are the best warriors from your worlds. This academy will test everything you think you know about combat and survival." The other cadets stood perfectly straight. Some were trembling slightly. Dae-ho noticed they all seemed very serious about this. He straightened up too, trying to match their energy. "Before we begin orientation, we will conduct basic physical assessments," Commander Trixene announced. "Follow Sergeant Caval to the testing facility." A large reptilian being stepped forward. Its scales were dark green and its eyes were bright yellow. Sergeant Caval looked like it could crush rocks with its bare hands. The other cadets followed nervously behind. The testing facility was huge. Strange machines lined the walls, and various weights and equipment were scattered around. Dae-ho had seen similar setups in Earth's military bases, though this equipment looked more advanced. "First test is strength measurement," Sergeant Caval announced. "Lift the training weight assigned to your species classification." A robotic voice called out each cadet's name and species. The weights varied greatly. The smallest cadets lifted objects that looked about 20 pounds. The largest, including a rock-like being named Zixnar, struggled with what appeared to be around 300 pounds. Lee Dae-ho. "Human. Deathworld classification," the robot announced. The room went quiet. Dae-ho heard whispers from the other cadets. A mechanical arm extended from the wall carrying a weight that looked significantly heavier than what Zixnar had lifted. The digital display read 500 pounds. Dae-ho walked over and examined the weight. It was about the same as what he used for his regular workout routine back home. He bent down, gripped the handles, and lifted it smoothly to chest level. The weight felt comfortable in his hands. "Is this the warm-up weight?" Dae-ho asked politely. "Back home I usually start with something lighter before moving to my actual workout weight." Sergeant Caval's eyes widened. Several other instructors gathered around, checking their data tablets frantically. The other cadets stepped back, giving Dae-ho more space. That is your maximum test weight," Sergeant Caval said slowly. "Oh," Dae-ho said, still holding the weight easily. "Should I put it down then? I don't want to mess up the test." He gently lowered the weight and started doing some stretching exercises. The same weight that was supposed to test his maximum strength, he began using to stretch his shoulders and back. The motion was so casual that it looked like he was barely holding anything at all. Commander Trixene approached with a data tablet. "Human Dae-ho, according to our records, your planet Earth is classified as a Class 2 death world."
"Can you explain what this means?"
Dae-ho thought for a moment. "Well, Earth has some challenging weather sometimes. We get hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, the usual stuff. And we have some interesting wildlife." "Interesting wildlife?" Sergeant Caval asked. "Sure. Bears, tigers, sharks, venomous snakes. My hometown has a mountain where people hike to see wild boars. They're pretty cute, though they can be aggressive if you surprise them." The alien instructors exchanged concerned looks. One of them was frantically typing on a tablet, apparently looking up information about Earth's wildlife. "And the weather you mentioned," Commander Trixene continued. "Hurricanes and earthquakes are common. Pretty common during certain seasons. Typhoons hit our area regularly. Most people just stay inside for a day or two until they pass. My grandmother always made sure we had enough food stored up. She lived through much worse weather when she was young." An instructor with tentacles for arms leaned over to whisper something to Commander Trixene. Dae-ho caught a few words. "Category 5 storms and seismic activity." "Human Dae-ho," the commander said carefully. "How do you and your people survive such dangerous conditions?" Dae-ho shrugged. "You just learn to adapt. Humans are pretty good at that. We build stronger houses, we learn to swim, we carry umbrellas. Basic stuff, really. The next test was reaction time. Cadets had to dodge light beams that came from different directions. Most aliens managed to avoid 3 or 4 beams before getting tagged. The best performers avoided 6 or 7. When Daeho's turn came, he easily dodged 15 beams before the machine stopped. He wasn't even breathing hard. Was the machine broken, he asked? It seemed to be moving kind of slowly. Sergeant Caval checked the machine's settings twice. Everything was normal. The beams were moving at the same speed that challenged every other species. The final test was endurance. Cadets had to run on a machine until they were exhausted. Most lasted between 10 and 20 minutes. Zixnar, the strongest until now, managed 35 minutes before collapsing. Daeho ran for 2 hours. He was still going strong when Commander Threxini stopped the test. I could keep going, Daeho offered. This pace reminds me of my morning jogs back home. Usually I run for about 3 hours, but I like to take it easy on weekdays. The alien instructors huddled together for an emergency meeting. Daeho could hear urgent whispers but couldn't make out the words. The other cadets stared at him with a mixture of awe and fear. Finally, Commander Threxini returned. Human Daeho, you will be assigned to special quarters. Report to Instructor Velthara tomorrow morning for advanced training assessment. Thank you, sir, Daeho said with a bow. I'm really excited to be here. This seems like a great place to learn new things. As he walked to his assigned quarters, Daeho wondered why everyone seemed so worried. The tests had been fun but not particularly challenging. He hoped the real training would be more interesting. Behind him, Commander Threxini was already making an urgent call to the Galactic Defense Corps headquarters. The conversation began with the words, "We may have a problem." Daeho woke up before his alarm went off. The academy quarters were comfortable, though the bed was a bit soft for his taste. Back home, he slept on a firm mattress that his mother said would help his posture. He did his usual morning exercises, took a cold shower, and headed to the dining hall. The other cadets were already eating breakfast. They stopped talking when he entered the room. Daeho grabbed a tray and looked at the food options. Most of it looked unfamiliar, but he was always willing to try new things. He took a little bit of everything and sat down at an empty table. A few cadets approached him carefully. The rock-like being Zixnar was among them. Human Daeho, Zixnar said in a deep, rumbling voice. Yesterday's tests were impressive. How did you train on your world? Daeho swallowed his food before answering. Just normal stuff, really. I played soccer in high school, did some hiking with my family. My dad taught me basic martial arts when I was young. Nothing special. The other cadets looked confused. A small, furry alien named Piplin spoke up. But your strength and speed levels exceed most warrior species. What kind of martial arts did your father teach? Taekwondo, Daeho said simply. It's pretty common where I'm from. Most kids learn it for discipline and exercise. My little sister is much better at it than me. The aliens exchanged worried glances. If Daeho's little sister was better than him, what did that mean for human combat potential? Instructor Velthara appeared beside their table. She was an energy-based being who looked like a floating collection of bright light. Her voice sounded like wind chimes. Cadet Daeho, report to Training Ground 7. Basic combat assessment begins in 10 minutes. Daeho finished his breakfast quickly and followed the instructor. The training ground was enormous, with various obstacle courses, combat rings, and weapon racks. Other cadets were already practicing with different weapons under supervision. Today we begin with hand-to-hand combat, Instructor Velthara explained. You will spar with other cadets to assess your technique and control. Remember, the goal is to demonstrate skill, not to seriously injure your opponent. Daeho nodded. Of course, safety first. His first opponent was a reptilian cadet about his size. The alien had sharp claws and moved quickly. Daeho had been taught to fight defensively first, so he focused on blocking and dodging. The reptilian attacked with swift claw strikes that would have been dangerous to most species. Daeho caught the alien's wrist gently and used a basic throw he'd learned in middle school. He was careful to control the movement so his opponent wouldn't get hurt. The reptilian landed softly and looked up in surprise. Good technique, Instructor Velthara said. Next opponent. The second alien was larger and stronger. It used heavy punches that created wind pressure. Daeho waited for an opening and tapped the alien's shoulder with what he considered very light contact. The alien stumbled backward and fell down. "I'm sorry," Daeho said quickly, helping his opponent up. "Are you okay? I barely touched you." The alien was fine but looked shaken. Instructor Velthara checked her readings again. According to the sensors, Daeho's light tap had generated more force than most species could handle. After 6 more sparring matches, Instructor Velthara stopped the exercise. Every opponent had been defeated easily, and 3 had needed medical attention despite Daeho's careful control. "Interesting," she said, making notes. Next exercise, obstacle course. The obstacle course was designed to challenge the Academy's best athletes. It included climbing walls, swinging across gaps, crawling through tight spaces, and jumping over barriers. Most cadets needed 15 to 20 minutes to complete it. Daeho approached the first obstacle, a 30-foot climbing wall. Back home, he and his friends used to climb the rocky cliffs near his school for fun. This wall had plenty of handholds and seemed much easier. He climbed it quickly and moved to the next obstacle. The rope swing across a water pit reminded him of the rope swing over the river near his hometown. He had spent many summer afternoons swinging into the water with his friends. This one was shorter, and the landing area was padded. The crawling section was designed to be uncomfortably tight for most species. For Daeho, it felt like crawling under his bed to retrieve lost items. No problem at all. The jumping section had barriers of increasing height. The highest was supposed to be nearly impossible for most cadets. Daeho had played basketball in high school and could jump much higher than this. He cleared every barrier easily. He completed the entire course in 4 minutes and 37 seconds, a new Academy record by more than 10 minutes. Was there supposed to be more? Daeho asked. It seemed kind of short. Instructor Velthara was staring at her timer. She reset it and checked again. The time was correct. "Let's move to weapons training," she said weakly. The weapons section included various alien combat tools, swords, staffs, energy weapons, and projectile launchers. Daeho had never used most of them, but the basic principles seemed similar to things he'd tried before. The energy sword felt like the wooden practice swords from his taekwondo classes. The staff was similar to the bow staff he'd learned to use in martial arts demonstrations. The projectile launcher reminded him of the water gun fights he'd had as a child. Within an hour, he had basic competency with every weapon type. His accuracy with projectile weapons was particularly impressive. Growing up, he had played many games that required good hand-eye coordination. "Human Daeho," Instructor Velthara said after checking her notes. "You mentioned your sister is better at martial arts than you are?" "Oh yes," Daeho said proudly. "Nayeon won the national championship in her age group last year. She's really talented. Much more disciplined than me too." Instructor Velthara excused herself and walked away quickly. Daeho could see her speaking urgently into a communication device. The final exercise was endurance combat. Cadets had to fight multiple opponents in sequence until they were too tired to continue. Most managed 3 or 4 opponents before exhaustion. Daeho fought 12 opponents before Instructor Velthara stopped the exercise. He was breathing a little harder but was ready to continue. "This is actually fun," he said. "It reminds me of the sparring tournaments back home, though those usually lasted longer." The other cadets were watching from a safe distance. Some were taking notes, probably to report back to their homeworlds about human capabilities. Sergeant Caval appeared with a group of other instructors. They huddled around Instructor Velthara, examining her data tablets and speaking in hushed tones. "Cadet Daeho," Sergeant Caval finally said. "Report to advanced training tomorrow. Regular basic training appears to be insufficient for your current skill level." "Thank you, sir," Daeho replied. "I'm looking forward to more challenging exercises." As he walked back to his quarters, Daeho felt satisfied with his first day of real training. The exercises had been enjoyable, though not particularly difficult. He hoped the advanced training would push him harder and help him improve his skills. Behind him, the instructors were holding an emergency meeting. The topic was whether they needed to completely redesign their training programs or contact Earth for advice on how to handle human cadets. Commander Threxany joined the meeting with a concerned expression. The day's events had raised serious questions about human military potential and what it meant for galactic security. Deho arrived at the advanced training facility early, carrying his usual cheerful attitude. The building looked more serious than the basic training areas. Darker colors, fewer windows, and a general atmosphere that suggested the training inside would be much more intense. Dr. Pixandra greeted him at the entrance. She was a tall, pale being with large, dark eyes and a graceful way of moving. Her species was known for powerful telepathic abilities and expertise in psychological warfare. "Human Deho," she said in a voice that seemed to echo strangely. "Welcome to advanced mental conditioning. This training will test your psychological limits and prepare you for the mental challenges of real combat." "Thank you, Doctor," Deho said with a respectful bow. "I'm excited to learn new skills." Dr. Pixandra led him to a room filled with strange equipment. Screens showed swirling patterns. Speakers produced odd sounds, and various machines hummed with unknown purposes. "First exercise is sleep deprivation resistance," Dr. Pixandra explained. "You will remain awake for 72 hours while performing various tasks. Most cadets begin to break down after 48 hours. Deho nodded thoughtfully. 72 hours? That's not too bad. During my final exams in high school, I stayed awake for about 80 hours studying. My mom kept bringing me coffee and snacks." Dr. Pixandra paused. "You regularly stay awake for more than 3 days?" "Not regularly," Deho clarified. "Just during exam periods. University entrance exams in Korea are pretty competitive. Most students prepare for months with very little sleep." The first day of sleep deprivation training went smoothly. Deho completed puzzles, memory tests, and physical exercises while other cadets watched from observation rooms. He chatted pleasantly with the instructors and asked questions about their home worlds. By the second day, the alien instructors looked more tired than Deho did. He was still alert and friendly, though he mentioned missing his usual morning coffee. "Is there any chance you have coffee here?" he asked Dr. Pixandra. "Back home, coffee helps me stay focused during long study sessions. You use stimulants to maintain alertness?" she asked, making notes. "Not really stimulants," Deho said. "Just coffee. Most people drink it daily. My grandmother drinks about 6 cups a day and she's 92 years old." Dr. Pixandra wrote, "Humans regularly consume mild toxins for performance enhancement" in her report. On the third day, Deho was still performing at full capacity. He had been awake for 72 hours and showed no signs of mental fatigue. The alien instructors who had been monitoring him in shifts were exhausted. "This is actually shorter than finals week," Deho commented. "Usually that lasts about 5 days with very little sleep. This feels like a nice break." Dr. Pixandra decided to move to the next exercise early. "Sensory deprivation," she announced. "You will be placed in complete darkness and silence for 24 hours. This breaks down most beings within 6 hours." The isolation chamber was completely dark and soundproof. Deho was left alone with his thoughts. Back home, he often meditated in quiet places to relax. His grandfather had taught him breathing techniques that helped him stay calm in stressful situations. After 24 hours, the door opened. Deho emerged looking refreshed. "That was really peaceful," he said. "It reminded me of the meditation retreats my family goes on sometimes. We usually do longer sessions, but this was nice too." Dr. Pixandra was beginning to look concerned. None of her usual methods were having any effect on the human cadet. "Next exercise," she said with less confidence, "fear response conditioning." The fear chamber was designed to trigger deep psychological terror in most species. It used a combination of visual illusions, sound effects, and telepathic suggestion to create horrifying experiences. Deho entered the chamber calmly. The first illusion showed massive predators with sharp teeth and claws. Deho examined them with interest. "These are really well designed," he said to the observation microphone. "They remind me of the dinosaurs in the movies I watched as a kid, though real Earth predators are usually more efficient hunters." The chamber escalated to more intense fears: falling from great heights, being buried alive, facing impossible odds in combat. Deho critiqued each scenario like a film student. "The falling sensation is pretty good, but you should add more wind effects," he suggested. "And the buried alive thing needs better sound design. Real cave-ins are much louder." Dr. Pixandra was frantically adjusting the controls. Nothing was producing the intended fear response. The final fear scenario was supposed to be the most terrifying, facing an overwhelming alien monster in the dark. The creature was designed based on the worst nightmares of multiple species. Deho looked at the monster carefully. "This is interesting," he said. "It's similar to some deep-sea creatures from Earth's oceans. The teeth pattern is like an anglerfish, and the tentacles are reminiscent of giant squids. Real giant squids can be 40 feet long." The monster attacked. Deho dodged calmly and continued his analysis. "The movement is pretty realistic, but real predators usually try to attack from behind or above. Also, the roar is a bit much. Most effective predators are actually very quiet when hunting." Dr. Pixandra stopped the simulation. The human was treating their most advanced fear conditioning like an educational nature documentary. "One final test," she said, though her confidence was completely gone. "Telepathic resistance." Dr. Pixandra placed her hands near Deho's head and began to probe his mind. This was supposed to be extremely invasive and uncomfortable for the subject. Instead, she gasped and pulled away immediately. Her face had gone completely pale. "What did you see?" asked Instructor Velthara, who had been observing. "His memories," Dr. Pixandra whispered.
"His world."
"The creatures, the natural disasters. How do they survive?" She had glimpsed Deho's casual memories of Earth. Volcanic eruptions that destroyed cities, hurricanes that lasted for days, earthquakes that leveled buildings, animals that could kill humans easily, yet humans lived alongside them normally. But worse were his entertainment memories. Movies where humans fought alien invasions, horror films designed to terrify audiences, video games where violence was commonplace. What humans considered fun was more intense than most alien military training. And the wars, Dr. Pixandra continued, shaking. The historical conflicts. They fight each other with such intensity, and then work together afterward. How is their psychology possible? Deho looked concerned. "Doctor, are you okay? You look upset." "I'm fine," she lied, stepping back further. "Training is concluded for today." As Deho left for lunch, Dr. Pixandra called an emergency meeting with the Academy leadership. The human's mind contained experiences that would traumatize most alien species, yet he treated them as normal childhood memories. "We need to contact Earth immediately," she told Commander Threxini. "We need to understand how their society functions. How do they raise children who can casually survive experiences that would break our strongest warriors?" Commander Threxini was already drafting a priority message to the Galactic Defense Corps. The subject line read, "Urgent, human psychological profile requires immediate reevaluation." Meanwhile, Deho was enjoying lunch and wondering why all the instructors seemed so stressed lately. He hoped they were getting enough rest. The Academy leadership had held 3 emergency meetings in 2 days. General Korthax, Supreme Commander of the Multi-Species Alliance, had arrived personally to observe the human cadet situation. He was a massive being with armored skin and 4 arms, representing one of the galaxy's most respected warrior species. "Show me this human," General Korthax demanded. Commander Threxini led him to the observation deck overlooking the training grounds. Below, Deho was helping other cadets with their combat exercises, patiently showing them techniques he considered basic. "He appears normal," General Korthax said. "Watch," Commander Threxini replied. A training accident occurred when a piece of heavy equipment broke loose and fell toward a group of cadets. Deho noticed it first and casually caught the 2-ton piece of machinery with one hand, while continuing his conversation with another cadet. General Korthax's 4 eyes widened. "What is his power level?" "Unknown," Commander Threxini admitted. "Our testing equipment cannot measure his upper limits. We need a definitive assessment." "Very well," General Korthax decided. "Deploy the ultimate survival test. Planet Krakthor." The instructors exchanged worried looks. Planet Krakthor was considered barely habitable even by the toughest alien species. It was used only for the most extreme training scenarios, and cadets were typically extracted within hours. The next morning, Deho was called to a special briefing room. General Korthax and several high-ranking officers were present, along with Captain Kim Tae-jun, a human liaison officer who had just arrived from Earth. "Cadet Deho," General Korthax announced, "you will participate in advanced survival training on planet Krakthor. This is our most challenging exercise. Captain Kim's expression immediately changed to concern, but Daeho looked excited. That sounds interesting, sir, Daeho said. How long will the training last? Standard duration is 1 week, General Korthax replied. Though most cadets require extraction within the first day. 1 week sounds good, Daeho nodded. Should I bring anything special? You will be provided with basic survival equipment only, the general explained. The planet has extreme weather, dangerous wildlife, and limited resources. The goal is to survive until extraction. Captain Kim tried to speak privately with General Korthax, but the general waved him away. This was a matter of galactic security now. Planet Krakthor was a nightmare world. The temperature swung from freezing cold to burning hot every 12 hours. The atmosphere was thin and filled with toxic gases. Deadly storms occurred daily. The wildlife consisted of aggressive predators that had adapted to the harsh conditions. Daeho was dropped on the planet's surface with basic shelter materials, water purification tablets, and emergency rations for 3 days. The plan was to monitor him remotely and extract him when he called for help. Within the first hour, Daeho had examined his surroundings and started setting up camp. The extreme temperature changes reminded him of desert camping trips he'd taken with his university hiking club. The thin atmosphere was similar to high-altitude climbing, which he'd done in the mountains near Seoul. The air is a bit thin, he reported through his communication device, but not too bad. It's like being at high altitude. I'll adjust in a day or two. By the end of the first day, he had built a shelter that exceeded Academy engineering standards. Using only basic tools and materials found on the planet, he had created a structure that maintained comfortable temperature, regardless of the external conditions. The rocks here have interesting thermal properties, he reported. They store heat during the hot period and release it when it gets cold. Pretty efficient natural system. On the second day, Daeho encountered the local wildlife. The first creature was a massive predator with razor-sharp claws and acidic saliva. Most aliens would have run or fought for their lives. Daeho observed it carefully from a safe distance. The creature reminded him of the wild bears near his hometown, just larger and more aggressive. He had learned from his grandfather how to coexist with dangerous wildlife. Using techniques for approaching wild animals, he gradually gained the creature's trust. By the end of the day, the predator was following him around like a friendly dog. I think it was just lonely, Daeho reported. It responds well to calm, confident behavior. I named it Rocky because of its rock-like scales. The monitoring team was speechless. The creature that had terrorized previous expeditions was now playing fetch with the human cadet. On the third day, toxic storms hit the planet. The winds carried corrosive chemicals that could dissolve most materials. Emergency protocols called for immediate extraction during such storms. Daeho's communication went silent. The rescue team prepared for emergency deployment. When the storms ended, Daeho's voice came through clearly. Sorry about the radio silence. I had to keep the equipment protected from the acid rain. No damage, though. He had not only survived the storm but had used it to improve his water collection system. The acid, when properly neutralized, provided useful chemical components for various purposes. By the fourth day, Daeho had established a thriving small ecosystem around his camp. He had befriended multiple local predators, created a sustainable food source using local plants, and built additional structures for various purposes. This place has a lot of potential, he reported. With some basic improvements, it could be quite comfortable. The wildlife is actually pretty friendly once you understand their behavior patterns. General Korthax ordered immediate extraction. A rescue team was dispatched with full environmental protection gear and heavy weapons for dealing with the planet's dangers. When the rescue ship landed, the team emerged in full hazmat suits, expecting to find a barely surviving human in desperate need of medical attention. Instead, they found Daeho waiting for them in a simple t-shirt and pants, looking relaxed and healthy. Several large predators sat nearby like loyal pets. Behind him was a small village's worth of sophisticated structures built from local materials. Oh, you're here already? Daeho said cheerfully. Time went by quickly. I was just starting to really enjoy this place. The rescue team leader nearly fainted. Are you injured? Do you need medical attention? I'm fine, Daeho assured him. Actually, I feel great. The clean air and exercise have been really refreshing. It's like a vacation from Earth's pollution. The rescue team required medical attention instead. 3 of them collapsed from heat exhaustion despite their environmental suits. One had a panic attack when Rocky approached to investigate the newcomers. Captain Kim arrived on a separate transport, looking extremely stressed. He had been trying to prevent this exact scenario. "Daeho," he said in Korean, "do you realize what you've done?" "I completed the survival training," Daeho replied, also in Korean. "Was I supposed to do something else?" Captain Kim looked at the thriving camp, the friendly predators and the rescue team receiving medical treatment. "No," he sighed. "You did exactly what they asked. That's the problem." On the flight back to the academy, General Korthax sat in stunned silence. The planet that challenged their toughest warriors had become a comfortable home for one human in less than a week. "Captain Kim," he finally said, "I need to understand something. Is this human exceptional among your species?" Captain Kim considered his answer carefully. "Sir, Daeho is a good kid, but he's pretty typical for a Korean university student. Maybe slightly above average physically because he plays sports, but nothing unusual." "Above average?" General Korthax asked weakly. "Yes, sir. If you really wanted to test human limits, you would need someone from our special forces, or maybe a professional athlete. Daeho is just a regular college student." General Korthax realized that the galaxy had seriously underestimated human capabilities. If a regular college student could do this, what could their actual warriors accomplish? The implications were terrifying. The Galactic Council had called an emergency session. Representatives from dozens of species gathered in the Great Hall, all discussing the same topic: what to do about the humans. Ambassador Choi Ji-won sat calmly at the Earth delegation table, watching the chaos unfold around her. Back at Zentar Academy, Daeho was preparing for his final examination. He had no idea that his performance over the past weeks had caused a diplomatic crisis. To him, this had been an educational and enjoyable experience. "The final test is squad leadership," Commander Threxini explained. "You will lead a mixed team of alien cadets through a combat simulation. Your goal is to complete the mission with minimal casualties. The simulation was designed to be nearly impossible. Multiple enemy positions, superior firepower, difficult terrain, and time pressure. Most squad leaders lost at least half their team members, and many failed the mission entirely. Daeho's squad consisted of 5 alien cadets from different species. They looked nervous about being led by the human who had broken every academy record. "Okay, everyone," Daeho said cheerfully. "Let's review the mission parameters." He studied the tactical display showing enemy positions and terrain features. The setup reminded him of strategy video games he'd played with friends back home. "This looks straightforward," he announced. "We'll use a simple flanking maneuver. Piplin, you're fast and small, so you'll create a distraction here. Zixnar, you're strong, so you'll handle the heavy weapons position. Everyone else will follow me through this route." The alien cadet stared at him. "Simple?" Zixnar asked. "This is rated as an extremely difficult scenario." "Really?" Daeho looked at the display again. "It's similar to missions I've completed in strategy games. Much easier than some of the raid boss fights my guild has done." The simulation began. Daeho led his team forward with casual confidence. When enemy fire erupted around them, he called out calmly, "Just dodge the plasma bolts. They're not moving that fast." His team members tried to follow his example, though what seemed not that fast to Daeho was actually quite challenging for them. "That explosion wasn't too bad," Daeho commented as a blast went off nearby. "Keep moving toward the objective." The explosion had been powerful enough to damage nearby buildings, but Daeho's matter-of-fact tone somehow made it seem manageable. Within 30 minutes, they had completed the mission with 0 casualties. Daeho's tactical decisions had been perfect, his leadership had kept the team calm, and his personal combat skills had eliminated threats before they became dangerous. "Good job, everyone," he told his team. "That was fun. You all did great." His squad members were traumatized, not from the combat, but from realizing that what they considered terrifying warfare was apparently fun for humans. The graduation ceremony was held the next day. Ambassador Choi had arrived to observe along with several other human officials. The Academy had invited representatives from major galactic powers to witness this historic moment. Daeho stood with the other graduating cadets, wearing his dress uniform and looking proud. He had no idea that half the audience was there to assess the potential threat he represented. Commander Threxini began the award presentations. Most cadets received standard certificates and modest honors. When Daeho's name was called, the list of awards was extensive. Cadet Lee Daeho, Commander Threxini announced, Academy Record for Physical Performance, Academy Record for Endurance, Academy Record for Tactical Excellence, Academy Record for Survival Training, and the first ever Academy Award for Exceptional Species Performance. The audience applauded, though many of the alien representatives looked nervous rather than congratulatory. Do you have any words for your fellow graduates? Commander Threxini asked. Daeho stepped forward to the microphone. Thank you everyone for making this such an enjoyable experience. I've learned a lot and made great friends. The training here was really interesting, though I was hoping it might be a bit more challenging. A ripple of shocked whispers went through the audience. The most difficult military training in the galaxy had been not challenging enough for the human. I want to thank all the instructors for their patience with me, Daeho continued. I know I probably wasn't the easiest student to work with since I'm not familiar with galactic standard procedures. Several instructors in the audience started laughing, hysterically. Dr. Pixandra was gently restraining Instructor Velthara, who appeared to be having some kind of breakdown. I'm really excited to go home and tell my family about everything I've learned, Daeho said. My sister Na-Yun will probably want to apply for next year's program. She's much more talented than me, so I'm sure she'd do even better here. Ambassador Choi closed her eyes in resignation. She could already imagine the panic that statement would cause. Thank you again for this wonderful opportunity, Daeho concluded. I hope more humans will get the chance to train here in the future. The applause was polite but uncertain. Most of the audience was still processing the implications of what they'd witnessed. After the ceremony, Ambassador Choi approached General Korthax. I understand there have been some concerns about our cadets' performance. Concerns? General Korthax said weakly. Ambassador, your cadet has redefined our understanding of biological limits. We need to completely revise our threat assessment protocols. I see, Ambassador Choi said diplomatically. Perhaps we should discuss expanding the exchange program. Cultural understanding is so important for galactic peace. General Korthax looked horrified. More humans? Coming here? Oh yes, Ambassador Choi smiled. We have hundreds of qualified candidates eager to participate. Our special forces are particularly interested in advanced training opportunities. At that moment, emergency alarms began sounding throughout the academy. It turned out that Dr. Pixandra had attempted to telepathically contact Earth and had accidentally connected with a human kindergarten class during their playground time. The children's casual thoughts about their daily activities had triggered a psychological crisis among the telepathic staff. Daeho was packing his belongings when Captain Kim found him. How do you feel about your time here? Captain Kim asked. It was great, Daeho said honestly. Really relaxing compared to university stress. The food was good, the training was interesting, and everyone was very friendly. Relaxing, Captain Kim repeated flatly. Yes, sir. It was like a nice break from regular life. I feel refreshed and ready to go back to my studies. Captain Kim handed him a datapad. These are the applications that have already been submitted for next year's program. Your sister's is on top. Daeho scrolled through the list and smiled. Wow, so many people want to come here. That's great. I'm sure they'll all have as much fun as I did. The final scene showed the Academy's new protocols being implemented. Every instructor assigned to work with human cadets would receive mandatory psychological counseling. New safety measures included panic buttons, medical support teams, and emergency evacuation procedures. Commander Threxini was reviewing the paperwork for next year's exchange program. The human applications included athletes, martial artists, mountain climbers, and special forces personnel. Each application was marked with increasingly alarming threat assessments. On Earth, Daeho was telling his friends about his vacation at Alien Military Academy. His sister Na-Yun was doing extra training, excited about her upcoming application. Their parents were proud of the international cultural exchange opportunity. Meanwhile, the Galactic Defense Corps was quietly implementing new defensive measures around important facilities. Not to protect against external threats, but to prepare for the arrival of more human exchange students. The final message in the story showed a communication from Earth's military. We are pleased to announce that due to the success of Cadet Lee Daeho's exchange program, we will be expanding human participation in galactic military training. Our next group will include 50 cadets from various military specializations. In the background, alien military leaders could be heard weeping softly. The galaxy would never be the same.